announce it that we are starting. By the way, sorry, I'm looking right side. Just my camera is here, my laptop is here, so that's why. That's the downside of multitasking, I guess.
Indeed.
Okay. Should I send you over my Twitch link, or it's not necessary?
Not really.
I will read out
not on
loud the
Twitch.
questions for you, so it doesn't matter. To be honest, it's just
Yeah,
not
no.
necessary. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
go. Yeah, not really.
I will read out
not on
loud the
Twitch.
questions for you, so it doesn't. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, it seems it's working. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It seems it's working. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Okay. Everything seems working correctly here. Yeah, let me sit into my original position here. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know if everything is working correctly here, and then we can actually start. Let us know. Let us know. Let us know. Let us know. I know it's early, but those who are tuned in, please let me know. Don't just be lurking out there. I will also check out myself. So if people are not responding, then it's easier to check myself. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3. Something. 1, 2, 3, 1, okay. 2, 3. Seems it's working. Fine. There is no audio lag. Okay, Mike, let me know if you're down to start. Let me know.
Brilliant. All good.
Nice. So welcome everyone in my very new episode of my Dev Live show. Today I'm joined with Mike, who is a music composer for so many awesome video games in the video game industry, like The Plucky Squire and also Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and also some other cool games. And I'm very honored and very thankful that you joined us for today's episode. And like I'm always saying, let's start with a little bit of introduction. So please introduce yourself for us.
Thanks, Ottó. Yeah, good to be here. And my name's Mike Georgiades, and I'm a composer from just outside London, in Hertfordshire, in England, out to sea. And I compose for video games. Before that, sort of TV kind of library music, production music, where you write an album and then it appears somewhere on the TV, somewhere in the world. You never quite know where. But yeah, most recently video games, and most recently The Plucky Squire, which came out last month in September. No, it's November now, isn't it? So it came out in September 24. To really good reviews. It's been fantastic to see it out there, and it's all going well. So all good.
Thank you for that. Okay, so my very first question would be, what was your very first contact with video games as a player, if you remember those times of your past?
Player. I'd say, to be incredibly unoriginal, I'd say Pong.
Okay.
Which makes me sound really old because it's like the first video game.
No.
When you're like young and you're a kid, you kind of get hand-me-downs. It wasn't like the latest game by any means, but I think my dad came home like one from what he borrowed, the console, which was I think in television, and it had those you held it and it had this sort of circular thing that you put the up and down, and I don't even know what you call that. It's not a joystick; it's a circular thing. And I just thought it was
something like that.
Yeah, paddle. That's it. Or pad. Yeah. And I just thought it was the most incredible experience. I still remember the feeling of just interacting with the television. It's like magic, And I saw a documentary recently on that. They were talking about that. That was just such an incredible achievement, really. well, from my point of view anyway, just to be playing that.
True.
And then shortly after Pong, it was really the same kind of time. I got a hand me down from my auntie, or fake auntie, like pretend auntie you call, my mum's friend, Atari 2600, which was again fantastic. Like, just the cartridge, putting the cartridges in and playing all these games, which just took you away as a kid. As they do. Most of the game is your imagination.
True.
And just playing the usual stuff. Like Pac-Man, Frogger, and all that. Again, years after it came out. This was probably late 80s or something, which is still quite a long time ago, admittedly. But then loads of other games that just that were so playable, and I've since played. Recently you get the old you get the what do you call them? The emulation kind of type stuff. They're all coming. It's been all the rage, hasn't it? Like the last few years.
True.
And going through, and maybe some of the games are best left in my childhood, really, because they're like, now you look at it and it's just the stark reality. But back there, like Adventure, that game Adventure. I don't know if it was in Ready Player One, the book, and you're just this little blob going around, and there's dragons. But as far as you're concerned, in your head, you're just in this mystical kingdom.
True. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but that was the kid in us, right? That we could imagine everything for those games.
Yeah, and maybe these days there's not enough left to the imagination. It's all so much attention to detail, and
True.
there's just something to be said for just
you're lost in the details usually, right?
Yeah, you fill in the gaps of the details.
True.
So it's almost like reading a book in a way. You just kind of, the words hypnotize you in the book.
True.
Into creating your own inner reality, and so does, you have to. There's so much space for you to imagine as a kid. That's what I'm saying with those Atari games.
True, very true.
But, yeah, great.
I see. So what about the music? What was your very first contact with the music itself?
What, music in the video games, or
no, like general? Music in general, like learning music and learning any instrument to play on.
Yeah, so I was saying before I was a composer for games. I did TV, but before all that, I was a guitarist.
Okay.
And a gigging, like working guitarist, and that goes right back to before I can remember. There's a picture of me that with an electric guitar, like a little plastic guitar, in the garden, and I took to that. My mum says I tuned it to this perfect chord or something, and then she made her go out and buy a proper one. I mean, it was probably sounded hideous, but apparently it sounded all right. And then she got me this quarter-sized classical Spanish guitar, and I was just infatuated with it, really, and had lessons. Was fortunate enough to get lessons at an early age, and I found that I was really good at it, and if you're good at something, you kind of want to do it more, obviously. And so it sort of snowballed with the guitar, and I went up, did all the grades, grade 1 to 8. I ended up, I was just guitarist all the way through school, and I did grade 8 by the time I was 18 or something.
I see.
And so that was my first contact with music. Was before I could remember. And I remember my parents always loved music, and they had the records, and obviously I remember just staring at the records spinning round and round from an early age, which you can't do so much anymore unless you've got records. But that was, it's something about the tactile nature of records, as they say. It was old country and western songs, and cheesy pop. I think I seem to remember. But, it goes way back, basically. Yeah.
I see.
So it's always been. I've always been identified, like it's funny, my personality is kind of identified with the guitar. It's like, I was always playing at concerts at school and stuff, and yeah, when I hear the guitar mentioned somewhere on the media or something, I'm like, it just I'm just so identified with it. It's funny. It just feels like it's almost about me when they're talking about the guitar. It's the best way I can describe it.
I see.
Yeah, but I'm very lucky to have found something at such a young age, to latch onto.
True. It's very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned that you had guitar lessons from a very young age. Do you feel like it's important to have a mentor if you have a talent in something, or do you prefer rather to learn something by yourself? How do you feel about that?
Oh, as in, it's invaluable to have a tutor,
Okay.
someone who can guide you, a mentor, someone to see. I take that as someone to look up to, someone to, um, you know, idolize and try and not replicate, but try and or imitate. I don't know what the word is, but anyway, it's good to have both. And certainly, if you've got a television or anything, back in the day, be watching guitarists, and still remember watching Jimi Hendrix, and I see what he does now, obviously, but at the time, you just think it's magic, and he's just what's he doing? He's creating this crazy array of notes, and you know, but in terms of actual guidance for getting better, I mean, in general, really, it's always better to have someone giving you live feedback.
Okay.
And although YouTube is incredible, and I've learned many things just from following. The trouble with YouTube, obviously, is that it's quite hit and miss, and it can lead you down all kinds of crazy routes. But yeah, if you find some good guidance, it can be done. Just self-taught. I'm not saying you can't. And lots of great guitarists are self-taught. So
True. No, I believe in mentorship is important too. That's why I asked you, how do you feel about it? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And that's something AI can't quite take. Right. I mean, it's great for tutoring in certain respect, the new version, but I'm sure we might get onto something talking about things like that. But yeah, in terms of a real person, same with anything, martial arts, anything, you've got to have live feedback.
True, very true. Yeah.
Or you're just learning it wrong. Golf is this thing I'm incredibly frustrated by. I'm terrible at golf. I shouldn't keep telling myself that, but I am. But then you realise that you don't realise until someone said just video yourself, and you realise your head's sort of moving like over there when you hit the ball or something. You're just like, I didn't even realise I was doing that.
True.
So feedback is really important. Yeah.
Very true. Yeah, I learned that from tennis, by the way, because my tennis mentor was not just a coach of tennis, but also a mentor to me in other territories of my life. So I learned it's like by him that it's very important to have a really good mentor in something that also helps you in other territories of your life. If he is, he was taught like that to help people. So yeah.
Yeah, it all ties in with, life values and outlook and things like that as well. And you need you respect someone more if I think if you know what they're about as well, and what their values are.
Yeah.
But tennis, yeah, it's another frustrating sport for me. But yeah, I'm glad it's going well for you.
Thank you. Okay, so my question would be a more personal question now. Do you think like your parents and like friends were supportive about your decision that you want to be a music composer and playing the guitar and like having this as a career? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think they were very supportive.
Okay.
Like I say, right from an early age, I was given every opportunity to learn instruments, and my guitar was. I also did violin and piano, but it didn't. Now they're really useful because now I play everything. I'd call myself a multi-instrumentalist guitarist first and foremost, but the violin lessons, I didn't particularly appreciate them at the time, and but now I've been using them, and Plucky Squire is a perfect example. Most of the strings I played doubling with sampled instruments, and things like that, which again we might get onto, we might not, but they were very supportive, and I went and did, all throughout my education, I was. It was easier back then, in England to do music and go. There wasn't so much tuition fees and stuff for university. I was able to go to university do a pop music degree. So I was classically trained, and then I basically got into Nirvana and things like that, and didn't listen to anything else for 2 years. And then I went and did a pop music degree. I was supported throughout all that, and more recently, it's worked out really well because my wife's a music teacher, and now going on to be like sort of she's a deputy head teacher and stuff like that. But that the jobs complement each other really well. So that's a good, very, very steady, reliable job in terms of bringing in the wage, and then my work is by its nature quite up and downy. More, hopefully doing this over the years, but certainly in the early years it was great. Again, that's a form of support for me, really. To it's been a good way it's worked out for us, really. Yeah. So yeah, very lucky.
So you mentioned before that for the first few years of your life, you haven't been working on video game music. What made you that click in your life that you realized that, okay, now I would like to work on video game music as well? What was the click in your head or in your life that you changed your perspective? Or have you always had this vision that you want to work for video games?
No, and it comes down to self-confidence, self-belief. Okay. I didn't have the click. It was, but I remember the click. It wasn't me that initiated it. It was Alexis from the Flights, who I work with on Assassin's Creed, and they're a brilliant composer duo who I've worked with regularly. I've known Alexis since university. They did Horizon Zero Dawn with Yoris the Man. But anyway, he just suggested that we do this library production music. We call it library here in the UK, but production music more now everywhere else and in the UK. And anyway, he suggested we do this sort of guitar-based album, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" I wasn't really even aware of what that was. That whole world, I never considered. I just thought, oh, I play guitar. I've always loved writing songs. I've always been a composer, but I just thought other people did that, and it's a very. I'm almost ashamed to admit it, but I didn't. Some people you hear ever since they were young, I thought it was a cool job, but I just didn't consider that I don't know why I could be doing it, really. Until in my 20s, well into my 20s, and from that moment, that was the click. Yeah, definitely, as you say, it opened up this whole world. It's like, right, well, I already, know how to do half this stuff. I already, use the computer to make songs and music, and I've been doing that since I was like, 14, with the Amiga. And so that's when I got majorly into doing library music, which is it's great, but it doesn't mean you can just give up your day job, because it's largely back end. It's all really back end royalties. That can take years to build up any sort of income from that. So it does take a long time when you're a composer to work up to exclusively being that, that as your job. But that was the click moment, and I can't remember what year that was. I think it was about 2009 or something. So quite a long time ago now, 15 years. But yeah, I've got him to thank for that, really. Him and Joe. Just getting me into that library world, really.
I see.
And there's always room for, especially right now, you know, if you've got a USP as a musician, as a composer, you know, mine being playing all kinds of guitars and plinky instruments, as you can probably see, I've got they're all spread out everywhere in my studio, and you know, it's just something that you know, it's very personal, like the way you play it as well, the type of instrument. It's you can easily knock up quite unique music with your own skills and your own instruments, because as you might be aware, electronic music, the downside is everyone's using the same instruments. You know, if you're talking about software instruments and sample-based libraries, so anything you can get some kind of unique thing that comes straight.
But it's more limited, right? Because of the software limits.
Yeah, and it's limited. I mean, the limits are racing, and that's half the trouble as well. Is like with automation and all this stuff, it's very easy to produce these, say, like a massive soundscape. You know, you could play that with one note now, whereas you know, a number of years ago you'd have to sculpt it, you know, building it up.
And I think that it's also lacking of understanding how to make music, right? Because it's so much easier, and that's how people end up on the downside of it. Like, they do not put enough time to it because they see that it's now way more easier to produce a song with softwares, right? Rather than actually learning to play an instrument. And in my opinion, it really delivers. It can deliver, like you said, a good song in some examples, but it still will end up like not understanding the music as art itself, right? And not have that, you know, personal connection, that very deep personal connection with the music itself, in my opinion, at least.
Absolutely, that's spot on, you know. But and also, yeah, it's too easy to let the software do the music for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than coming from you.
True.
Falling into, I mean, I do as well, and I've got no problem using samples. I'm a sample instrument developer as well. That's another string to my bow. I've just got over the last 3 years, really. I create software instruments, guitar-based instruments.
I see.
For Spitfire Audio, and I've got no, you know, I'm the first one to use sampled instruments and presets and synth presets, but the key is to make it your own, to turn, you know, to tweak things, to create some kind of overall new, unique kind of sound. It doesn't have to, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but just make it, especially when you're attaching it to something like a game, it has to have its own signature sound, its own world. You know, the last thing people want is just to have something that could be if you shut your eyes, you could be in another game. You know, that's the thing.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. When was the first time, by the way, when you like discovered your own style in music?
Oh. Yeah, you do. I think it's a gradual process, actually.
Okay.
Because you build up your own sound. So my view is that talking about human creativity, I've learned this from having children. Actually, I've got 2 boys, and one of them's been writing songs since he was 5, and he's now 15, and they're both very musical. But I noticed with Alex, he's kind of he pieced together certain songs from just a few songs. You know, there's a very small pool of songs that he listened to, and I could hear. I was taking that from that from that. And he's made it his own, but it's like he jumbled it up in his brain, and as he listens to more music, and it gets to my point, it becomes more and more sophisticated. Because our brains are just what's going on in there? I don't know.
True.
But it's more and more sophisticated, and it's a minefield sometimes because you come out with something and you think, oh god, that sounds a bit like that or whatever, and don't say anything maybe, but or do. But anyway, the point is, I think it's a gradual thing. Finding your sound is just just tending towards the things that you like, that move you, and it could be partly the palette, the instruments. It could be intervals, certain intervals. I can spot, and I'm sure other people can maybe, just certain tendencies to like leap certain intervals or something at over certain chords. It's things like that. It's just a big mixture of harmonic and melodic and textual, just sort of like preferences really, and they can reflect through different genres, like you like different palettes that different games require. Hopefully, if you can hear the common thread through all of them, and it identifies the composer, then you've found your sound. And I've definitely got my favourite, I guess, chord progressions and, like I say, melodic leaps and intervals, and not that I'm thinking about them, but when I listen back to a few years ago tunes, I can tell, oh, I got that. I kind of developed that Plucky Squire theme from, that thing 10 years ago. I didn't even realise, it's not a conscious thing. So I guess the answer is, just finding your sound is a very gradual thing. Maybe for other people it's like, oh, I found my own sound, but like they find something, but not for me really. Just gradual.
I see. Okay.
But it's going your own way, isn't it? It's just the same with anything, isn't it?
True.
Actually, in this day and age,
Yeah,
I think
you develop out your knowledge, and then you found your own style by it, what you like, and how you manage to like it or not.
Yeah, it's just a unique mix of all the things you've listened to or taken in.
All the
It could be
experiences
anything
that you had. Yeah, it's combining and mixing throughout
you're
your brain.
regurgitating with a little bit of you.
True.
And so they say technology won't be able to replicate that, and I think that's fortunately true for the next.
Yeah, because that's
however
the
many years.
soul of ours, right? So it's really that you mentioned before, that our soul will connect with music, and it will be like not a conscious decision of ours, but like more of a soul decision, if we could say so.
Yeah, I think music's a very mysterious language, really. I think it's not like words. It's not as definite, is it? It's
Yeah, because it can connect people with the first hearing of the first sound, right? Not like with like words, like you mentioned, that you have to say a lot of sentences to others to describe something. Yeah,
absolutely. I think words are, they can be beautiful. That's the art of a poet or a great writer, is making the clunkiness of words more elegant.
True.
But the way I use words anyway, they're pretty clunky.
Don't say that. Don't say that. I'm way worse in English, so I'm not a native speaker of English, so I should say that.
Well, you speak better than me, so.
No, it's not true.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's just a mysterious language, music, and even the people creating the music find it mysterious, and that's I really think that you have to have a you can't, if you've got a full idea of what's going on. That's the danger of learning too much theory.
True.
I am classically trained, and I know all the theory and all the harmony stuff and scales and different types of modes and all that. But
yeah, it's like it will box you into fixed knowledge, right? Or exact knowledge of things.
If you know exactly what you're going to do, then you know where you're going to end up, and you don't want to know where you're going to end up. So
true.
You say, so even now with the guitar, like it's the famous your fingers get stuck in the box. You're doing all the same chords and stuff. So I always, if I can, if it doesn't sound too bad, I detune a string or two or three, and suddenly I'm in the dark again, and then I can not know what I'm going to create, and I can feel my way rather than thinking my way.
True,
If you know what I
true,
mean?
true, true.
Yeah. So yeah, it's got to be in the dark, I think.
Yeah, because it fades away all the light, right? And you cannot see the box itself that you're in, and you can be always creative with your soul and feeling it, like you said. I believe in that. I totally agree with you
Yeah,
on that. Yeah, yeah.
that's just art, isn't it? I mean,
Exactly, exactly.
like it again. It's true with anything. It's like I don't know if you've seen the movies that made us. It's this Netflix series.
No, no, no. I
Uh,
haven't. I haven't.
it's brilliant. Oh, it's about all those movies. Like there's one on Die Hard,
Okay,
which is they didn't know how the movie was going to end
I see.
as they were filming it.
I see.
And so when you're young, you're just thinking Hollywood. They all just know what they're doing and all that stuff. But they were just making it on the fly. They were writing the
Yeah.
script frantically
Yeah, and that's the
as they were
adaptation part, right? And that's how they develop out. Like you said, my to perfect ending would be for them, because like throughout the adaptation for all those scripts that they like write on the fly, they like will realize how they should, do the ending, right? Because if they
yeah, they
will.
felt it out.
Exactly, exactly. And it's like really an emotional and personal touch to the stories because they develop it on the fly. I think it's if it would be like, in one sit that they write all the story, it might end up being like also very emotional, but still it could like ruin the experience, right? Because when you're filming with all those people there, the characters
Yeah.
acting, the actors, and everyone else who is helping creating and producing
Mm.
those movies, it really like can shape something into a way different form.
Mm. Absolutely. And again, they don't know what the outcome was. They do,
True.
uh, and yeah, it's just. I think if something's pre-planned out too much, it's just like what I was saying with the music, with the theory. Just
True, true, true.
don't get as original,
Yeah,
inspiring.
because it's all rules then, right? It's like you read
Yeah.
the book of rules and you follow it. It wouldn't be original then, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
True, very
No, it's
true.
interesting. It's great. It's a great series. I recommend that as well.
Okay,
It's got
I
like
will. I will watch it for sure, and I will let you know
mm,
how I felt about it. Thank you for recommending
no
that. Thank you for that.
problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe, by the way, that all of us who create our own craft in any forms of art, we always tend to put our inner self into things that we make. We were talking about it before, but uh,
Mm.
is this statement of mine true for your life with music? That you always put your inner self into music, even if it was experience of love, losing somebody, or any experiences through your past, that you put those experiences into the music you play.
Yeah, I think in some way or another it has to be or have some kind of authentic uh, thing underneath it.
Okay.
Whether that's about you or whether it's observations about someone else. I mean, like I say, I used to love writing songs, and I'm still do. And I used to frequently write about other people around me, or you can write about the world. But
I used to do
so
that with poems, by the way, and I still do, so I can relate to that.
yeah, absolutely. It doesn't have to be necessarily about you, but it
True, true, true.
has to stir something in you, and something. Uh, yeah, anytime you write a song and you know it's a bit put on, then you don't love it, do you? Afterwards, or poem, or whatever. But yeah, the authentic side, it's true with music. Um, it's true with writing about. I suppose it relates to what I do to games as well, which is it has to not people can tell if you're writing something that that doesn't fit the picture exactly. It's got
True.
to really naturally fit
True.
what you're
True.
writing
True. True.
about.
True.
You could say that about songs, about you, about yeah. I used to write really introspective songs, and funny enough, I was talking to some audio people recently. Like everyone seems to have these songs swirling around in their head that they used to write, and still do, and yeah, it'd be great to actually start getting them out there. I actually want to resurrect some of them. Actually, it's just I just think any music that's floating around your head, you need to get it out because it will just keep going around. I don't know if you
True.
get that with
Yeah, with
poetry and
writing.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I did. Yeah, yeah.
As soon as you write it, it stops
True,
going around your
true,
head.
true, true.
It's out.
But if you
It's like
don't
any
do that,
feeling.
it's always there in your head, keep
Yeah,
circling. Yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah,
yeah, and that's true with thoughts, with things, issues, with any,
true.
or
With
with
anything,
feelings.
yeah,
You have to,
feelings, exactly.
vent,
Yeah,
and that's definitely true. So I think if you're say in the business of writing music and you're having feelings, they sometimes come out as music. So you, in a way, it's a natural thing, isn't it? So if you
true.
feel strongly about something, whether it's you or someone else, or then it will just spew out of you naturally. I could have put that nicer, but yeah,
No, I get
really
it, and I
helps.
totally agree with you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Mm.
okay. What was so far? What was your very favorite song to make, to compose music, to compose,
My favorite song.
or music to
Yeah, I mean,
compose, or
it's
more
always
if
great
you
to write.
have to pick more?
Yeah, no, favorite piece of music. It's always good writing with other people.
Okay.
Um, uh, one in terms of songs, it's great when you just play as a band, and we did that back in the day. But more recently, the Assassin's Creed Odyssey theme that me, Alexis, and Joe of the Float wrote. We wrote it as almost like as a band. We were sitting around. We all had an instrument, and to see that out there getting a great reception, afterwards was absolutely, that was the biggest thing ever been involved in. And also a couple others on that album. I'm really proud of. We're all really proud of this Pirates, Thugs and Bandits. It's called, which is this. It's this sort of epic sort of battle music that plays while the bandits are attacking you, and it's like about 5 minutes or 6 minutes, and it never repeats. Uh, in the game it does, but on the soundtrack, if you listen to it, it just keeps going, and somehow, and it keeps building and building and building, and it's me playing. I play the bouzouki on that, and yeah, that was just so much fun because we were just jamming that out and piecing it together, and it turned out to be like quite a popular one, and it was played recently at the Hammersmith Apollo. We went to see it being played live by someone else, like someone who can who's actually a bouzouki specialist. So it was great, and it was backed up by the orchestra, and it's just so great to see it come alive. Um, that was a great event as well. I advise anyone to go to those shows. Assassin's Creed do a symphony tour, and it's absolutely great to watch. So that was brilliant. Yeah.
It must have been a very nice feeling. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, really good.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. You mentioned before that in music life, sometimes you had ups and downs with working as a musician, as a music composer, as a guitarist as well. Were there any times in your life when you like wanted to give up this dream of yours or this passion of yours, or never ever it happens to you, and
Yeah.
you always had belief in the process and the passion?
No, not at all. But
Okay.
never seriously thought of giving up, simply
Okay.
because, like I say, ever since I was young, it's what I did, and I didn't really know what else to be. I did
see.
get into other things like briefly. I was a very bad web developer for internet websites, and yeah, that I say that I was very quite. I just self-taught it, and I thought, right, I need to get into something else here because the gigs were up and down and things like this, and I was doing teaching guitar in schools, and because I'm a bit of an introvert, and I just found I never I'm not do it. I'm not saying that's not a some people love doing that. It just wasn't for me.
I see.
Did it for 15 years, mind you, but yeah, and but anyway, there was times when it was a bit shaky, but it was very up and down like this. There was also really good times, and you get a bit weary of that. Uh, as I imagine someone in a steady job gets weary of being in a steady job. The other side of the fence is always greener, isn't it? But nah, never a time. It's just a gradual process that hopefully, as a self-employed person, it goes up gradually, with downs and ups, but gradually higher up overall. And yeah, towards the end of playing gigs, I was doing some really interesting gigs. I was playing for members of the royal family, prime minister, the London, because I'm fortunate to live just outside London. I love London; it's brilliant, and I loved it actually, just going around playing posh hotels and uh, yeah, quite crazy stories sometimes. But I'll save that for my book.
You're writing a book. I love that.
No, I'm never going to write the book. It's just one of those things.
You will. You said it. I know you will.
Now, yeah, no, just yeah, just it's all a bit of a blur really, but yeah, just you know, yeah, it was good. I enjoyed the gigs. It just
I see.
it got to the point where I needed to stop. I was spending a lot of time away on the weekends and things like that. So
I see.
yeah, a few years ago I stopped doing that.
I see. How do you balance, by the way, your everyday life and also music? How do you balance that? To have enough time for your family and also have enough time for music, because since it's a passion and very important thing in your life too.
Well, it's my job, so I do that during the day, and then it's very busy at night. With the family and kids and homework and stuff like that, as I'm sure lots of people identify with. Doing video games, that's the problem I have these days, is that, and again, this is a common thing, is that I still love the idea of playing video games, but it's so hard to fit it in, and it's important research, to keep playing games. And I did, I played a really good game recently called Still Wakes the Deep. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
It's I'm pretty far through that, but I'm terrible at games as well, by the way.
Don't say that. I hate when you say that you're terrible at something.
I know. It's awful, isn't it? But yeah, just finding time for music is easy because, like I say, my family is very musical as well. So in here actually doubles as a sort of a band room. I've got a drum kit over here and guitar amps. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah. So we do lots of music. When we have parties, we do live music, and
nice.
Plenty of time for music. That's for sure. Yeah.
See. Okay. Throughout those years that you were working on video game music, how do you feel? How have you changed as a person in other territories of your life?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I've changed. I've certainly become more aware of my inner workings. You get I think you get to a certain age and you get a bit more reflective.
Okay.
I've certainly changed a lot over the last 10 or 20 years. I guess you could say more confident, if you can believe that, despite me saying I'm rubbish at everything. But yeah,
It's okay. I think that it's. I mean, I don't want you to say that you're rubbish in anything because I don't believe in that.
no,
First of all, but I also believe that you have to have self confidence. But in the other side, also like being able to question yourself, right? Because both of those like aspects of in our life are important, right? Because if you have too much self confidence, it might end up in a way that you like say that you are the best, which might not be true, but
yeah,
if still you have like self questioning too much, you will be ending up in this deep down rabbit hole where you're like not believing in your own vision. So you have to balance those,
yeah,
in my opinion.
of course. And I suppose either way is delusional, really, isn't it?
True,
It's like
true, true.
you
Exactly,
know,
exactly. Yeah,
you're not grounded if you're, you
exactly.
know,
Like those two
no,
barriers, those
yeah,
are two barriers. Like you have to place yourself in the middle, in my opinion. Being able
yeah,
to question
and that,
yourself, but also like being able to believe in your own vision. Because if it's not you who is believing in your vision and your own style of art, then who will, right? So
absolutely, absolutely. It's being so many things, like you say, where you place yourself uh, in society, but also when you're talking to people and things like this. This is the things that I've learned over the years. It's like uh, it, it's this kind of, it's so important to and also to not be so reliant on external validation and things like
true,
that.
true, true, true.
It's hard because when you're see, because I'm quite an introvert, I've kind of created this life for myself. I very much believe in manifesting. You could call it the law of attraction, but manifesting the life that you're kind of creating all the time. Because I've created this where I'm sort of on my own a lot in the day, as a lot of people are now. Um, I mean, it was just on the news, I think, yesterday, like the amount of people now, because of COVID, working from home
True,
on their own, feeling a little bit isolated and
true,
stuff.
true, true.
It's always, you have to balance that. You have to mix that with uh, meeting up with people and go,
True.
like fortunately, I've got lovely family and friends, so it's great. But it's the external. So when you're isolated at home, you kind of think that you need that external validation.
True,
So
true, true,
say if
true.
the soundtrack goes out, uh, and then you kind of like relying on this stuff coming back to you,
True.
good
The
feedback,
feedback,
bad,
yeah.
yeah. And it's not being too over reliant on that. I've learned over the years that you've just got to have confidence because especially with library music, like I said, with the TV stuff, you're making these whole albums without any feedback, and then all the way through, you're just thinking, is this just nonsense that I'm creating? Is this going to get used? Is it a waste of time? Am I going to get the money? In 3 years down the line, who cares? It's so long, you know. Uh, and you've just got to keep going despite all that, and just calm those voices down. You have to get by. What I'm saying is, when you're working on your own, not just on I work with other people as well, but when you're working on your own, you have to get by without that external validation,
True.
reliant. You know,
True. True. Very true.
it's got to come from internal, isn't it?
True. 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 Very true. And I think that all of us human beings are like, or were born like that to want some validation from others, but still we have to learn, like you said, is very true, like to believe in the
Mm.
process and to believe in our vision. Because like I said, if it's not us, then who will believe for us, right? So because since it's our own
Absolutely.
vision and dreams, right? We don't want others to
Yeah, and I think it's more than that. I think it's a sign that you're doing something good. If you're not confident with something,
True.
like going back to what we were saying, if you don't know what the outcome will be,
True.
then that's a healthy thing.
True,
So
true,
don't
true.
fear these
That's
feelings
the
of
dark room that you mentioned before at the beginning of our interview, that you have to put yourself into dark room to create
Mm,
music with your soul and experimenting with the guitar, right? And I totally believe in that
mm,
because I feel like when I like it ties up to the topic that we discussed earlier. Like a lot of people in this day and age are really like connected with strict rules, right? And they are like trying to learn everything from books and from all those strict rules, which is fine at the end of the day. But in my opinion, it's not really being creative, because all the crazy stuff in our mind could create really like more creative personal things, like for example any forms of art, like even if it's paintings
mm,
or music or video games or books or any form of art.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those books, all those books, they who were they created by? People making stuff up as they went. You
True,
know,
true,
I
true.
mean, obviously it's based on knowledge of pyramids of
Yeah,
knowledge and all
exactly,
that stuff.
exactly. All the experiences and everything that they had in life. But still, it's like that circling idea and vision that you also mentioned. And I totally agree with you
Yeah,
on that too. That they always had that, circling idea in their head, and they just had to put it out there, because if not, then
mm.
it would be forever circling in their head. Yeah.
And it's wisdom, and it's kind of it's their idea, although it's comprised, like I say, of different people's ideas that
Exactly,
they
exactly, exactly,
used to form their own. And it has to have some kind of originality, as in it hasn't been done before. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been
exactly,
turned into a book,
exactly, exactly.
a good book anyway.
Yeah, that's the personal
Uh,
touch that makes the things, that those crafts unique, in my opinion.
hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, I just really believe that we're all, you know, slightly making it up as we go along anyway. It's like they say about, like, this is how I got over imposter syndrome, which is an all too common thing. Is that we're all imposters, really. So you just join the club, sort of thing,
True,
you know.
true, true, true. True, very
And
true.
join the imposter club. Yeah. But
Very
it's
true, very
useful.
true, very true. Okay, before I will go into more specific game oriented questions, my question would be, I was very interested in this. Do you feel like, or do you think like in the future you could imagine yourself creating like a whole music album for a video game that will be your video game, like creating a game around your music? Can you imagine yourself doing that in the future?
Uh,
Or have you ever
I
had
just don't
ideas
think.
for that?
Oh yeah, I always get ideas for things. By the way, if any devs are listening, that this is a great idea. You know those Atari games. Imagine those in VR. Like, so imagine Frogger in VR.
Okay.
I always think that would be absolutely fantastic. You know, like these simple games where you're doing these really playable
True,
games,
true,
but
true, true, true.
and you get run over. You know, it'd be quite crazy, wouldn't it?
Like
Apart
reimagining the
from
fun
that,
that you mentioned with music as well, that people can go back to old school stuff and reimagine and bring them to this
yeah,
new day and age. Yeah, I could relate to that. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, no, that'd be great. But in terms of doing my own game, there's just not enough time.
I see.
I'm always learning. I've got. There's one thing I've always had, which is a kind of a growth mindset, and I'm always intrigued to learn new stuff.
I see.
And uh, like I said, most recently, I've always had a fascination with coding. Going back to the Amiga days, there was this thing called I think it was Amos or something. It was like a Visual
Okay.
Basic kind of thing. But recently, I created. So this is what I'm into now: is creating sampled instruments,
I see.
which involves a lot of coding um, in a sampler called Contact. I don't know if you know that, a software
Okay.
sort of sampler, and it's absolutely fantastic and fascinating, and it's really hit on what I really wanted and am doing more. But more releases planned, and it's to just sample as many instruments as I can. I've already done a nylon string guitar and a steel string acoustic guitar, and try and translate it so it sounds its most natural on the keyboard. Uh, and if I was going to do anything like that, it would just be more of this kind of stuff, along with the creative kind of game and other media type work, you know. But if there was time, in the world, I would love to get into creating games, and I've got the coding skills to sort of give me a platform to get into it. Should I want to? So yeah, stay tuned for that Frogger VR
And
extravaganza.
the book, right? Don't forget the book.
See, there's just no time, so much to do.
It's
So little
funny because
time.
like as kids we always like try for having money to buy games, right? But as adults we end up like having a day job and having enough money to buy games, but we have less time to play games, right? It's so funny.
Less time, and yeah, just more stuff in your head. I
True,
don't know.
true, true,
Just got
true.
so much time when you're younger just to get into these games.
True, true, true.
Crazy.
And also the mindset is different, right? Like you said, it's like when we are
Mm.
adults, then we know so much stuff that's happening in our world. So many crazy stories, that we cannot like, fade away in our heads, and we still like think about those crazy things. And I think that that's how people end up like not enjoying and not having fun with video games, because they cannot reconnect with video games as a level of being a kid, or on that level that we used to be as a kid, in my opinion at
Mm.
least. Yeah.
No, maybe they're just yeah, just too striving for that feeling. Too, I would guess, like anything, isn't it? You're just striving for that
True,
feeling,
true, true,
and it can be very frustrating.
true,
You don't quite
true, true.
get it again.
Very true.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah.
indeed.
When you were composing the music itself for the Plucky Squire, what was the message that you wanted to give for the players? Or what was the feeling that you wanted to give for the players when they hear the music that you composed for that
Mm.
game? Because
Well,
of
that's
course the
easy, really, isn't it?
story has its own message, right? And I'm sure that
Yeah.
the message of the story connects and resonates with the music. But as a composer of that part of the game, the music itself, what was your own personal message with the music itself?
Yeah, no, the personal message is again my own tastes with how I like to write music, but the
Okay.
main thing was definitely getting more and more into the uh, immersing myself in the Plucky Squire. Like as soon
Okay.
as I saw the game, as I saw the sort of video footage, it just made me smile. And I always remember, and I've seen people talk about that with the Plucky Squire. It's just it's just a heartwarming kind of vibe. And then of course you talk with the devs, Jamie and Bids, who founded All Possible Futures. We're talking about how what the ingredients are, in terms of the basic feelings, and it was kind of like quirky. I don't know what the word was. Is it? Yeah, just sort of like uh, a little bit, yeah, quirky. Um, Not confusion. I can't remember the word that they used, but it had to be of a certain sort of magic uh, quality, and I put all this together, and that's what informs you when you're creating. Because the first thing you do is you do two things. You start to put together some sounds, the palette, which will be the core palette of the game, and also you just start maybe playing the piano or the guitar, just creating some themes that always come to you while you're, not at a screen. I like to work as much away from the screen as possible, so themes come to you when you're, washing the dishes or doing anything, and you got your phone to hum into, and and then you just let it sort of sit for a while, and yeah, so the core message is just to deliver the core message of the game,
I
definitely
see. I
through the
see.
music.
I see.
But then at the same time, you're drawing on, maybe because as a composer you've got a whole library of ideas that you build up, uh, that you can then put into your project if they fit.
Yeah, and you
So
also
then, yeah,
mentioned before that you already had the idea in your mind for the music for this game itself, right? So
yeah, it suggested
Like
itself
years
to me.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, uh, yeah, no. As soon as you see the game, it speaks to you. You know. So, like I say, the video gave me a certain feeling. I immediately got uh, this certain idea with music and themes,
I see.
and then the great bit where Jock goes out of the book into the 3D room. That for me was obviously that it called for a whole different style of writing. You know, and that's partly a good use of music during games is to make for games is to make the worlds almost seem bigger than they are, but with all the contrast, you know. And so that was it's just so much fun doing the music for it, um, uh, and just so much variety. You know, I used practically every instrument there is that I could get my hands on, plus all loads of you know in the box software stuff. You know, sample manipulation, created my own sample instruments, and used stuff on, you know, like I say, got no problem using stuff out there if it's going to fit into what I'm doing. So hopefully, yeah, I hope people enjoying the score and enjoying the variety, but also there's a common thread uh, through it. Hopefully, you know, it's not just a sporadic load of different pieces. It's yeah, hopefully there's a common thread throughout, and I guess that's what I was trying to say with the music, although I don't know what that is exactly.
I see. I see. I see.
Mysterious.
Mysterious. Yeah, like you said, mysterious. Yeah, very
It
true.
is.
Very true. Very true. And it's important in my opinion because it really like helps people to, like you said, imagine the world and immerse within the world that they are playing throughout the games.
Yeah, that's what it has to do,
Yeah,
really. The music has to be largely almost ignored on a conscious level
true, true, true,
for it to work in the game.
true, very
Um,
true.
you know that. So the game is very much a nod to previous games. It's very nostalgic, and I loved that because the Amiga games. You know, I was fortunate to work near the end with Alistair Brimble, who did a lot of Amiga games. That you know that I and I used to remember just humming along to these loops going around whilst playing these Amiga games, and it was very much like that for the in-book music, whereas the out-book music was much more soundscapes and you know it got increasingly melodic as it went on as Jock got used to the outside world.
I see.
You know, so that was interesting as well, exploring how the two levels or worlds sort of interacted in terms of the main characters sort of, you know, feeling about them, you know. So yeah, it was great. Just a nod to those old games. That's what I really enjoyed as well. You know.
I see. Have you always had this click when you first see the projects that you are working on for games? What type of music would you like to compose? And also, the question goes to this topic, and as an addition question, that have you been like sometimes picky about the projects that you choose, or you always said yes to projects that developers or companies offer you, or were you the one sometimes who choose or chose your own projects to work on?
Sure. Um, yeah. The first question. What was the first question again?
So
You asked me two. What was
the
the one?
first question, that have you always had this click, like you mentioned before,
Yeah.
for the Plucky Squire? When you
Yeah.
first saw the video game itself, what music would you like to
Yeah.
compose for the game?
Fortunately, I found it quite easy a lot of the
Okay,
time
okay,
to uh the picture it seems to tell you, give you all these
I
parameters.
see, I see.
Because these days the problem these days is there's so many. You could just literally write anything with any instrument, any amount of tracks. I kind of envy the old days in a way where they had just four tracks. You know, you'd have to with a certain amount of sounds
True, true, true.
on the chip or whatever. Uh, you have to impose your own limitations,
True.
but those limitations come from the picture, like the artwork, the vibe of the story. Everything suggests a certain, initially, maybe a cliche thing, and then you have to try and work out how to do it in an original manner.
True.
So yeah, I think it's so much easier that doing that than doing something, writing your own music without any picture. By far, I think a lot of people agree with that. It's just so much more doubt involved, and there's lack of direction. How do you narrow things down? Should you narrow things down? All this stuff with your own stuff, but with picture, it's narrowing it down for you. I think like I couldn't do a big, a certain kind of palette, like a big palette. It would just if it doesn't fit the picture, anyone could tell it wouldn't fit the picture.
True.
And in terms of turning down work, I mean, that I guess that is happening a little bit more now, rather than pick. You said choosing your own projects. I think it's more about limiting the work that you can take, and if you happen to have two projects that come along at the same time, we have to decide one or the other. I haven't really had that. I've been quite lucky with the timings, I guess, but there's certainly sometimes where I've had to say unfortunately it's not possible right now, and then you have to be prepared for the fact that they're going to go and find someone else. And what I found often is, though, it doesn't stop the relationship. I think people are worried that that'll be it, they'll find someone else and then that'll be it for you, but I think people like having different options open.
True.
So I'm not as worried about that as I used to be. And like because of that, I used to take on all kinds of work too much sometimes, and I still hear composers saying, they work, 21 hours a day, have, 3 hours sleep, and I just that's not how I want to be.
I see.
So yeah, you do have to be very careful. About what you pick and choose.
I see.
And don't be afraid of turning stuff down. I think, yeah.
True. Thank you again for your honesty, by the way. I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I will go into some more questions, are you down to answer some questions from my community as well? Are you down to that?
Of course, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let us know if there is any question. Let me share my laptop here. Let us know. Hölgyek, urak, nyugodtan kérdezzetek. Let us know. Oh, there were questions. So many. Okay, I missed the chat. My bad. Aiden said that it's so good to see the composer of Assassin's Creed Odyssey on stream. Thank you, Aiden, for saying that.
Well, I must add, the Flight, they're the guys that got the gig. They're really great composers, and they invited me to join them for the pitch. And we worked together over the years, and they're a fantastic duo. I'd say I'd advise anyone interested to listen to their work. They've done some great stuff. Alien Isolation, like I say, Horizon Zero Dawn, and the new one actually. I can't remember what that one's called. But anyway, yeah, check them out definitely.
Thank you for that. Okay, let me read back the chat. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I will read out loud this question too, but I'm sure the answer is yes. That Eden also asking you that did you enjoy making Assassin's Creed music? But I'm sure it's a yes answer. So
yeah, it was definitely, Aiden, it was very definitely intense. In an intense couple of years, it was a lot of music to write. I think it was 4 hours of music in the end wheel altogether. But anyway, it was absolutely fantastic. It worked really well. You know, I very much enjoyed getting to know certain other instruments. Like, despite my surname, you know, I hadn't really played the bouzouki very much before that game, and yeah, it was great. Apart from it keeps slipping off your lap, you know. But apart from that, it's yeah, and the lots of tuning old instruments, which takes half the time, you know. But apart from that, it was absolutely great, and I was able to progress my career in terms of devoting more of my time to composing, and yeah, it's an amazing franchise to be part of. You know, it's,
True,
it's
true,
incredible.
true, very true. Thank you for the question and answer. Thank you. Sorry. Minnie is asking that during the time when you worked on a video game music, uh, do the developers in the company did like tell you what kind of tunes they want and what kind of melodies they want, or you always got the total freedom as a creative person?
I should say that, and I didn't say this before, that they always give you reference tracks.
Okay,
Uh, to give you the idea of what they're thinking
I
the
see.
vibe should be. It
I see.
doesn't and this is always a thing that you have to suss out as a composer is I don't want to take too much of the reference tracks.
I
So the
see.
reference tracks in the case of Plucky Skyward, in the footage they put in from a film. I can't remember which film it was, though I can remember the music. But it had a certain orchestral, magical, uh, slightly at times, yeah, crazy quality, um, and I had to just sort of take the output of the music, the feeling of the music,
I see. I see. I see.
rather than copying the music. So yeah, they certainly do. Uh, Not only those guys, you always get reference tracks or what's called temp music, and I'll be honest, the jobs that haven't worked out in terms of sometimes you have to pitch for jobs is when I've stuck too close to the temp music. I learned that years ago.
I see.
Is that people don't just want to replicate it. They want
True.
to
True.
be surprised. Really, they want to be, and this is why they're calling for you for your kind of artistic um, interpretation of what they want. Um, so yeah, that's basically it. Really, they give you the music to give you the vibe and the message that they're feeling they want. It all comes down to feelings. So if you send some music to someone, and I always get back emotive comments,
True.
um, never technical. It's always just this doesn't feel quite right at this point, or this needs to be a bit more exciting. Or so in a way, the notes are very much secondary to the overall message of the music.
True.
You know, um, which is what you've got to think of. It's easy as a musician to get bogged down in the notes, and you do have a choice. That's your domain. That's what you have the choice of the notes, but you don't have the choice of the feeling that they want. You have to make it all add up
True.
to what they want. And if you can deliver that with some unique music, that's what they're looking for, is the unique signature that can go in their game or film or whatever.
True. True. Thank you again, by the way, for the question and answer. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the question.
Okay, let me go further in the chat. See if there is any more question. Oh, Aiden is also asking how was working with the Flight brothers.
They're not
And he
brothers.
said
They're
brothers. He said brothers like this.
brothers.
Yeah,
Oh, brothers. Right. Yeah,
brothers. Yeah.
yeah. No, they are. It was actually great. It they're just such a. They work so well together. They complement each other, and really they're an advert for how you should always like work with people. Really, it's so much more. I mean, music is, as I think Alexis said once. I heard him say, we're not really designed to be just playing music on our own. We it's best as a synergy kind of thing with other
I see.
people, and
I see. I see. I see.
they've got this synergy where you know, I wouldn't say they're a double act, but they got this kind of thing together where it just all adds up to this great sound that they've developed over the years. You know, they've got different qualities, and then I can come in and add my qualities,
True.
and that's their philosophy: is they bring in people as to what the project demand. You know, the project demands. So for Assassin's Creed, it was you know, I compose and play multiple instruments, primarily string instruments. Although, like I say, that's expanded quite a bit. But it just works so well. Sometimes we played as a band, like I said, with the main theme. We sat in the room and jammed out some ideas. And sometimes we split up. Towards the end, I was responsible for doing a lot of the the RPG type conversation music,
I see.
and maybe they would do well, like a lot of, I mean, the battle music and all the stuff like that. So we did different things, and then we'd come together. So it worked in different ways, and it means also, you're not work. It's the feedback thing, isn't it? It's what we're saying. It's that they're constantly critiquing
True.
each other's, which is fantastic, because you then you don't have to deal with this void of am I doing this? Am I on the right track?
True. True.
And like I say, I've known these guys for years. We've done lots of projects. I mean, in fact, I joined them doing a bit of session guitar on the Assassin's Creed Black Flag multiplayer mode. They did the music for that, and I joined in with a couple of tracks there. So it's not the first Assassin's Creed
Nice.
we've done together.
I enjoyed the multiplayer segments of Assassin's Creed games so much, by the way, and I miss multiplayer in Assassin's Creed so much, to be honest. I hope that multiplayer part of Assassin's Creed games will come back, because those things in Assassin's Creed games were really, like, again, a unique touch to have this very unique multiplayer segment in those games, in my opinion.
And that's quite fondly thought of, that Black Flag as well, isn't it? I think that game, it's quite a popular one with the ships, and
True. Very true. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure what. It's just didn't carry on, did it? So you never know.
True. I hope. Then that there were some, like, expectations that they might be back as a company to the multiplayer part of Assassin's Creed. But yeah. Thank you again for the question and answer. Thank you. Okay, Aiden is also asking. I know you can't speak of it, but do you have any plans or any projects that you're working for, like Assassin's Creed or other games? But I'm sure that if you do, then you cannot talk about this. So it's like a question that, yeah, true. Yeah, it's a question that you cannot answer. Yeah.
No, I'm doing a couple of really amazing projects at the moment. one is a game, and one is in the land of virtual instruments, and
Okay.
I can't wait to share both.
Okay.
But as Aidan says, the nature of the
True,
business
true,
is
true. NDA, NDA,
NDA. As a
NDA.
problem when you're trying to make conversation when you're
True,
meeting up
true,
at
true. I never
networking
ask
events.
NDA questions, but my community
No,
does, so they probably not aware of. No, it's not a good thing to ask, but they tried. They
we need,
tried. We have to
we need a
respect
secret
that.
NDA. Yeah, we need a secret NDA group, private meeting, and
True,
then we can
true, true,
share what.
true, true. Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Joking, by the way, in case
Okay,
the
that's
legal
really.
department is listening.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I did ask your question too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did ask your question too. Igen, igen, Mini, megkérdeztem a te kérdésedet is, ha? Válaszolt is rá. Okay, any more question? Any more question? Any more question, ladies and gentlemen? Which are not tied to, Andy and all these future plans. It's okay,
No.
it's okay. Okay, Aiden has one more. Okay, okay, we are waiting. We are waiting. Let us know, Aiden. Aiden is tripping now. You are tripping, Aiden. He's asking the most common questions that it seems he did not listen to the interview. He asked you what is your favorite instrument, but you answered this at the very beginning of of our interview, so he probably did not pay
Guitar,
attention to
yeah,
it. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
my thing.
yeah.
Definitely. All forms of the guitar, basically. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's just been a constant throughout my life. There's always some guitar lying around somewhere.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice, nice. Oh, he wasn't here. Okay, okay, my bad then. Okay. We touched here a lot of topics. Is there anything that you think we haven't touched and you would like to talk about before I will go into some more questions of mine?
Um, to be honest, no, not that I can think of at the moment.
Okay.
I would say I've been reading this. I'd recommend this book on AI because I mentioned that briefly earlier. Uh, called Irreplaceable, I think it's
Okay.
called. And it's very interesting, fairly positive, actually, view on how we can take this stuff uh, into our working lives, freeing us up to do more creative stuff. And I'd recommend that for anyone who wants to, yeah, learn about, or just a grounding on where we're at with it. And yeah, that's just something that sprung to mind that I've just been reading. So there's people. The point of the book is people that absolutely no AI and can't go away, and then there's people on the other side that is integrating it so much into their lives that they're depending on it, and that they're
It's again the
using
balance that we were talking about before, right? The balance of everything. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. I find it interesting because it's to do with all of our work. Anything
Exactly.
remote related to ones and zeros, we've
Exactly.
got to be thinking about it now.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's all. Just a little
Yeah, and
extra.
there were like a fair amount of like positive outcomes in video games that had AI components in it. I always mention this example of the finals that had like the voice actors were thought AI was thought of two voice actors voice, and they are like using these voice actor voice thought by AI to
Mm,
immerse players into the game of finals when they're like commentating every step of the players. Or I could also mention one of my guests from my Dev Live show, past Dev Live show, who
mm,
is working on an AI based point and click video game, 1001 Nights. It's also a very
mm,
awesome video game where you can like change the outcome of the story. And it's based
mm.
really like old school folklore tale, 1001 Nights. So yeah, I can see the very positive outcome of AI. It's just really again about understanding the AI itself, right? And it ties up to the topic that we discussed earlier about music itself, that those people who will end up, using asset packs and using assets for making music, they might not understand music how those people understand music who are, have this personal touch with instruments playing music,
Yeah,
right? So it's a very different form of playing music. I'm not judging those people who are making those types of music with assets or softwares. It's just it's a way different type of form of making music, and the outcome will be probably way different too.
yes, yeah. We don't know the outcomes of any of it, but
Exactly,
I see it as
exactly.
I see it as currency. It's like anything that's just so much of it, it will get obviously less value.
True.
The value will be in your as a musician, your human, your creativity and your skills as a human
Exactly, and
in the real world. Maybe
yeah,
I'm not just I love electronic music. And there's people have their own voice, and
true, true,
AI
true,
can't necessarily just regenerate that. So it's
true,
just
true,
really most important to have your own unique voice
true,
and
true,
skill set.
true.
Yeah.
And also, in my opinion, it's like in my opinion it also could cause a problem where like people, if everything is like affordable for people to make forms of art but they are not that talented in, they still can like share their own vision, which is great in my opinion, and they should
Mm.
do that. But still it can like cause this, what we were talking about earlier, is that like if they have too big a ego about not being that talented but they still think that they are, I don't know, the best in the world as a musician, or I don't know, a writer of a book, they can end up being like on the other side of the horse, where they like don't have this
Mm.
self-criticism of what they are doing, if it's good enough or not. And I've seen that a lot, since nowadays
Yeah.
being a musician became a trend, being a I don't know, book writer also became a trend, because a lot of people see money in it as well, and that's when those people
Um,
like don't find a balance between making art and getting money for it. And it's not that much in my opinion, but it happens, and it's sad to see that some people are like, even I had some friends who like wanted to be, I don't know, musician, because I don't know, suddenly here in Hungary there were like famous musicians and they started to listen to their tracks and they were like, I can do this. And I was like, no, you probably can't, because it's
mm,
one out of, I don't know, 1,000 or 1 million person, right? So it's like,
mm,
it's not discouraging people, but still at the end of the day you have to realize that there is some things that you can do with your talent, and there are some things that you might not be able to do as good as the others, right? Because I know for myself I
yeah.
suck at drawing and making animations, right? So I won't say that I'm the best painter in the world, because I will probably never be, right? So it's like
Mm,
you have to have that
yeah.
self questioning, and also next to that self confidence. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And there are people that just yeah. I mean, so I'm not saying the AI isn't inherently bad. It's the people that there's a lot of bad things going on with
Exactly.
ripping off people's material and using it to train.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
a whole different thing.
And most
That
of the
needs to be.
casual consumers of AI are just using it for like fun, right? So it's not
Yeah.
evolving AI
Exactly. Yeah.
at all.
Can't
So they
rely on
just ask questions if like, I don't know, what will be the breakfast for next morning or something stupid, right? So it's like it's having fun as a kid. It still doesn't matter at the end of the day, because it won't like evolve AI in that much sense. Of course it can, and like since I
Yeah.
believe that all small things better in the end of the day, or matter at the end of the day. But yeah, it's not
Mm.
that big of an addition to evolve
No.
AI. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Let's hope not.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything that you would like to talk about, and it's in your head, like we talked about circling before I will go into some closing questions? Is
Not
there
that I can think of
anything
at the
that
moment. No.
Okay.
Go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
I mean,
Oh, Aiden is saying have to go. He has to go. It was a pleasure to meet you virtually. Had a great conversation watching both of you. See you later, guys. Thank you, Aiden.
thanks, Aidan.
Thank you for that. Okay, so two questions from me. Also, again, more personal questions. I hope that you don't mind. My very first personal question would be: do you think, like, by composing, playing music, not just for video games, but for other
Mm.
territories in your life as well, do you think like you found yourself in your life by doing and playing music and composing music?
Uh, yeah, I think I've achieved what am achieving, and I've still got. It's always good
Okay,
to have goals and
okay,
plans.
yeah, it's understandable. Yeah,
I'm in a good place, and I don't know if yeah I like I say I'm always learning and changing as I progress through
I
music.
see,
I don't know if it's because of the music, but it's what during the music,
I see.
making the music certainly. And yeah, just the uh yeah, it's I don't know really. Just I think it's just a natural evolution. You kind of and as you change, your music changes. I'm always listening to different style. If you're talking about the music itself, you know, it's something I very much appreciate because as a guitarist, I was always almost thinking I should specialize in one thing or the other. But I didn't want to do that. I always wanted to sort of learn new styles,
I
and this
see.
is just the perfect job for doing that.
True,
Really,
true,
every
true, true.
project has its own
To challenge your
offers every
knowledge and
yeah
yourself, right? And to always
challenge,
learn something new.
opportunity. Yeah, every
Yeah,
project has its own opportunity.
true,
There you go. Now learn about ancient, whatever
true,
Greece, as in Assassin's
true,
Creed Odyssey.
true, true, true. Very true.
Um, so it's a nice adventure to be on, definitely. Yeah.
True. Okay, my closing question would be: what would be your advice for those people who would like to pursue their dreams in the music industry? If they want to compose their own songs, if they would like to compose songs for video games or any other forms of art and media like
Mm.
movies or what they love.
That's the question, isn't it? Uh,
Since we were talking about like self-doubt and self-confidence, right? It's the
yes,
perfect question to summarize the
absolutely.
topic,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Okay. Well, I mean, the first thing is to have something very readily available to show people
Okay,
in the first instance. So you're you're only you're only as good or in at the stage of as your portfolio is. And then it's not being afraid to get that external validation, that criticism, good or bad. You just have to know, because if you'd rather just not know and not do anything, then you're not obviously going anywhere.
true.
The other thing is a bit more of a general thing, which is if you ask people what they want, say in life, and they say to be happy or to be rich or to be free, there's a very general. They're very general. They don't mean anything.
True,
Well, they
true,
do, but
true.
they're
I
not leading
totally agree
anywhere.
with you. Yeah, yeah,
And it comes from the best book I ever read is Napoleon Hill. Is How to Think and Grow Rich. I think it was written in
yeah,
1937,
yeah.
and you've got to make definite plans backed up by specific actions with burning
Exactly,
desire. And
exactly,
if
exactly.
you do all that, definite plans with actual time frame, and then subconsciously you're going to work it out. It's because
Exactly,
the subconscious
exactly.
is like a garden. You're sowing the seeds, and then your subconscious is going right. Okay, and you don't even need to consciously make the plans; they will come to you.
True,
Uh,
true, true, true,
this is
true.
what I really, I found incredible. I recommend that book, to anyone who's looking. But in terms of music, I should go back to that really, shouldn't I? Yeah, have a portfolio. Decide what you want to be doing. Say in a year. What would you like to be doing? This is a good thing. In fact, my wife Ruth, she suggested this to me a few years ago, and quite a number of years ago now. It worked. It always works because it sorts out it sorts out what you want to do. It makes you flit less. You're going from one thing to the other. That's the worst thing, is when you.
True.
And the best saying I've heard is, you make up your mind quickly and change your mind slowly about something. That's what I think. There's some millionaire's quote or something. That it makes sense to me, because flitting is the opposite of that, where you're making up. You can't make up your mind, but you keep changing your mind, and you're not going down any particular track.
True, true,
So you
true.
need to decide about, say, a year from now, what you want. Do you
But
want to
that's
be
the
playing
mystery,
gigs?
right? That you were talking about. So it also can work out in some cases at the end of the
Oh
day.
yeah, absolutely. There's no harm in seeing where things go,
True, true.
in terms of creating art, but I'm talking about life situation.
True, true. Yeah, it's understandable.
It's if I'm saying, if you want to, you either want to be somewhere, or
Yeah.
you're going to see what happens. That's leaving it to chance.
True, true.
I know it sounds a bit contradictory, but I think they're different
No, I
things.
got it. I got it. I totally got what you said. Yeah, yeah. And also, an addition from me would be to that book that you mentioned. I read that book, and I feel like the
Oh
society
yeah,
really like not be passionate about things. That like all these we were born into makes a lot of you not care about being passionate about something. Common goals, like you said, have a house, have a family, salary. I don't know, all these like, which are of course important goals in our everyday. Those people who pursue these goals and feel empty at their 30s and 40s, and I met so many life,
yeah,
like they had a perfect house, kids, with a wife or with a husband,
yeah,
and they soul were empty, and they were talking about with honesty. They are having this crazy life situation where everything, and but they still feel empty. They don't know they achieve their goals, and that's all for them, right? And 70 years in the best what to do with all those years, so they speed run that, right? So
It's
yeah,
just a big long anticlimax, and that's it. It's like,
exactly. So it's weird, right? So yeah, yeah,
mm, I totally agree with all that.
yeah.
That you know, it's a great thing to have all that, but it's got, and
Exactly.
not ticking boxes and things like that.
Exactly.
Jobs are set up to keep with the catching up.
True.
That ladder, and, I had an office job. Yeah, in the past, it's been just been. I mean, I just
Yeah, because it not ties up
yeah,
with the music, and I totally understand that. In my opinion, you don't like, in my opinion,
no,
at least. These
happy.
society rules tells you that's okay, 9 to 5 job, but still, like, if it's not it to really live a life when you're not that you're not happy with it, or to sacrifice something and but still like end up having career at the end of, I don't know, some years.
Yeah, very
It's
true.
hard.
Very true.
It's hard. Financial, like, these rules are really making it to having
Mm.
been more like pursuing art, in my opinion. Sad at the end of the day, because art should be really something that's available for people by being open-minded to it.
Well, I think that's going to make a comeback.
Yeah,
With
I
like
feel
you
that
say,
too. I feel
everyone's
that too. Yeah, because like I said, a lot of people realize that at their 30s or and 40s that they are having this self-conscious thinking of like they feel empty, and they try for something new, right? So it will come back eventually for a lot of people, in my opinion.
yeah,
And they
hope
will
so.
probably and hopefully teach their kids not to do the same road that they did, right? So
Yeah, we'll
hopefully.
see.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Thank you for the question, and also thank you for your honesty and the answers and your time here.
It's been a
Thank you
pleasure.
so
No,
much. It was a
great.
pleasure to me and an honor as well. And like I said, I will need some more of your minutes off stream. But for
Sure.
those who were here with us today, thank you for joining us for today's episode. And yeah, don't forget to also watch it back as a VOD version or edited version. Everyone who was here or who watched us live, thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, have a nice day or evening, depending where you live. Bye bye, everyone. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.